this is how I play Monster Hunter.
No, 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 no. Yes.
And there is no other way to play it. Oh yes, everybody, I hope you've all been rising to the occasion and getting your rise in as we dissect and detail every little detail of this demo. And of course, the detail that most matters to me is that of the great sword! The greatest sword! The biggest, largest, most impressive sword! The best weapon! Shut up, it is. Okay, for real, every single weapon I have played so far in this demo has been absolutely fantastic, and I genuinely think, for the most part, at least first impressions, the weapons have never felt better to play, and have never been more impactful and fun. But still, great sword. So, I have seen a Rise Greatsword, and I have seen that it is good, and today we're going to break it all down, go into the nitty-gritty, talk about the good, the new, the not-so-good, and the old, and wrap it all up in a nice parcel tied with Silkbinds. So firstly, if you're used to World/Iceborne Greatsword, do you have a good starting off point here? Well, yes, sans Slinger Burst, of course, as a little interrupt, which basically didn't get used that much anyway outside of Frostcraft sets, you have the same moveset. Now, interestingly to note, in Rise, the first two levels of charge come quite quickly, but the third takes as long as it does to get to in Iceborne. So things seem just generally more snappier, but not quicker in general. Animations, the movesets, what you can do when you can do it, how quickly you can roll out of hitting the ground, how fast you can roll out of a true charge, how fast a true charge takes to come out. Both of these tests obviously without focus, because the demo does not have focus in the set. And in fact, as a little side note here, we can't really talk about numbers, about damage, about how strong relative to the other weapons it is, because we can't even look at the numbers, we can't look at the equipment, we have no idea what's going on here. It's entirely possible, and indeed likely, that these sets are just set at certain power levels, and the visuals are just that, visuals. So, no raw values, no motion values, no idea if anything's been buffed or nerfed. We can just kinda evaluate the flow and the feel. And, well, spoiler alert. But yeah, as you can see in all these side-by-side tests, it's pretty much what you expect, what I'm glad to see returning, and the moveset that just works with your shoulder tackles and all of your combos. Now, initially, I was convinced that the Rise Greatsword felt slower, that there was more forced animation time before you could cancel of attacks, before you could shoulder tackle, but I think that just came down to me being so used to having focus, and as soon as I put them side by side, I kind of proved myself wrong. So yes, the baseline is there, and it's working great. Now, the one addition then that really makes this so much better in Rise is the super swipe after landing from an aerial attack. So currently, you do the super swipe, that's all good, that comes out at the same time, but in Rise you go straight to true charge afterwards, whereas currently you have to go in to your intermediary, which means you get to the true charge so much faster, and it means that spamming of the aerial attacks, which you will be doing because Wirebug, is so much more rewarding because you can then do your most powerful attack after it in a much more direct manner. So essentially it just streamlines the whole process and makes it that much more fun to play. Now, it should be said, thanks to Rise, while in the air, instead of doing the usual Greatsword aerial attack, we do have the option for ZR and a plunging stab. This, however, does kind of pathetic damage if not charged up using it via the Silkbind, and once you hit the ground, you cannot swipe into true charge, you instead go into strong charge slash, which obviously means it's a lot slower to get to that true charge, so you'll be using this quite rarely, except for in situations where you only have time to quickly stab down and then just let that strong charge slash fly with no intention of true charging. That is a better output than just doing the normal hit plus a super swipe, so there is a lot of contextual options for the Greatsword in Rise. So, talking of Wirebug, what are our Silkbind attacks? First up then is the Power Sheath, and this is fantastic. Yes, it's a damage boost, and we'll get to that later, but what it is chiefly and why it's wonderful for Greatsword is on-demand burst movement that you can cancel into. So whenever you finished attack, at the point that you would be able to roll, you can instead just zip along and be hopefully relatively safe. Sadly, it doesn't seem to have any kind of iframes associated with it like an actual roll, so timing is still needed, but it's essentially an emergency exit to any nasty situation, and it feels fantastically fluid to play with. To know that it's at your command, just using it to get around is wondrous. Hell, even knocking the monster down and away from you and using it to travel towards them, sheath your weapon, give yourself the attack boost to start on the combo on the flailing helpless creature. It just is packed with utility, and you can use it in a myriad of different situations. Dodge, travel, damage, it's all of the goodness that Greatsword does indeed want. And I am so happy it is now part of our kit. But yes, it does give you damage, kind of like Lion's Maw, but it's not just for the draw attack, though of course this plays wonderfully into any crit draw builds that become, well, potent at endgame, and I am sure that there will be. This is Greatsword after all, and suddenly I'll be making them irregardless. But yes, we get a little bit of a boost, and it lasts roughly the time it takes you to do a full charge combo. Level 3, level 3, level 2, boom, and then it goes down. So you get a hefty amount of pop from this, which makes it even better to use it to get towards a down monster and then unleash said boosted full combo. But again, we like numbers. We like big numbers. It's why we're using massive overcompensation, the weapon. So can we glean anything from the numbers here? Well, perhaps. It doth donk a Bullfango to the noggin for 54, having got the buff. And it doth donk a Bullfango to the noggin for 49, having not got the buff. Now, this is obviously an improvement of 5. It's around 10%, and you might be like, oh, okay, 10% more damage, cool, call it a day, but that's not really something we can say. We have no idea if it's a percent-based increase, like Frostcraft being 30%, or if it just adds raw to your weapon, like drinking a Mega Demon drug. It could just be plus 10 raw. This is just a level 1 draw attack that has a relatively low motion value, so the difference won't be that crazy, even if you are getting buffs applied. It'll have a much more impact when you get to true charge with its monstrous motion value. So whether it's a raw increase or a percentage one, we can't really say, but at the very least it is appreciable, because whether it's achieved by raw or percent, a 10%-ish bump, at least on this attack, is nothing to sniff at, so this will definitely be worth using for the damage as well as the dodge, ideally both at the same time once you get really good with it. So, the next Silkbind attack then is Hunting Edge, and this is very cool. An initial spin up into the air, uses both your Wirebug charges, does a little bit of damage, and if you hit the monster, you spring back up into the air once more, and then you have a choice to make. You can either go for one more powerful hit with a little bit more reach in the usual Greatsword aerial attack, or you can go for more overall damage across multiple hits in a much less distance covering straight down plunge, which is our current Iceborne sliding attack after you have well been sliding. Though, side note, sliding attacks are not in Rise. You just start doing your normal attacks if you press attack on a slope while in the sliding animation, so that's interesting. In any case, you get this lovely robust choice. You can charge both of them up, whereas normally you can't charge the stab down. The stab down is the one to go for if you can get it off, but you might have to resort to the usual one if you're just a little bit in the wrong position in the air, depending on how accurately you pulled it off. Now this, it's good, it's fine, it's a lot of damage, but that's all it is, damage. It's not like it's ridiculously better than sheathing your weapon, jumping into the air with the Wirebug and just doing the normal aerial attack. It's just a little bit enhanced, so I don't know, it's fun, but I am a tad bit whelmed by it, I can't deny. Though it is of course something you can do with your weapon already out. You can weave it into mid-combo, you can finish a true charge, then do this for just that final extra little bit, really bring it home, then land with it and go back into another Super Swipe 2 charge. So, you know, it has that connectivity, and that's really what it's there for. We don't need it to be a super powerful dunk, because that is true charge, and it's not going to take the place of that. It's just an extra option which adds more diversity to the moveset, and it does that absolutely excellently. I mean, look, it's so much fun to pull off. Yeah, I really do like it. My only concern with this Wirebug attack then is that if you miss, well, there is a whole second after hitting the ground that you can't do anything other than watch the animation. You can't roll out of it, you can't, well, again, do anything. So whiffing this is an open invitation for the monster to absolutely destroy you, and while that is on you for missing, it really doesn't feel great when it happens. It really doesn't. It's just like, oh, why can't I move? I can roll out of a true charge, why can't I roll out of goddamn Wirebug Silkbind shenanigans? And that's just something that we're going to have to get used to, as is the kind of weird aerial hitboxes that they seem to have done. Now, obviously, hitboxes in Monster Hunter have their ups and downs, but the main thing for me is that something like a tail swipe on Rathian, if you aerial attack while she's doing it and connect with like her mid-back, you still get hit by the tail swipe, and yes, her body's moving too, but should that really be damage on you? Should that throw you out the air? I feel like there should be a bit more lenience of what does actually cancel your aerial fun in a game all about aerial fun. Now, I'm not saying don't buff the monsters to compensate to allow for that extra damage you can get because you're not being knocked out the air, but I think in the name of, you know, pure enjoying the combat, this really is something that shouldn't be quite so stringent. And yes, it might just be a Rathian thing, but it feels really bad to get cancelled out of your Wirebug fun attacks by an attack that isn't technically using the part of the monster that you're connecting with. So we'll see how that develops. So that's your Silkbinds. Other than that, you have your normal, as I said, just jump into the air with the Wirebug, do an aerial attack so you can build up that special damage to Wyvern ride, and you have all the Wirebug options that really everyone has. The get up from the ground, the general zip around the place, and the thing is, this is greatsword, right? So this is an inherently sluggish weapon when your weapon is drawn. Now, it's not a slow weapon. Sluggish and slow isn't the same. You spend most of your time with the greatsword with it on your back, so just running around at normal hunter speed. So you're actually fairly mobile because the portion of the hunt you're attacking and rooted is quite low compared to other weapons. We spend more time sheathed than not for the most part. So having this extra flexibility of wirebugging around the place adds this element of burst mobility and general agility to a weapon that, let's be honest, does not generally spot that, and it is a beautiful eclectic mix. It really pops, it really works well, and it turns greatsword, which is already a stomping powerhouse, into more of a stomping powerhouse, but also we could be like, whee! Around the air and get into position much faster in a world of much more agile monsters, because obviously they have gained new tricks to keep up with our Wirebug shenanigans. It's not just all our way. So how do you take greatsword, one of the most satisfying weapons to play, one of the most meaty, impactful movesets, and make it better? Keep it having the moveset and just add crazy mobility that everyone's getting, and you have a recipe for just wondrousness. This really is a if it ain't broke, don't fix it at its core, with some new bells and whistles that just had quite literally a whole other dimension of air to the weapon, and I am a huge fan. It simply is, to me, Iceborne Greatsword, which is the best greatsword's ever been if we ignore the Clutch Claw, but so much better, more fun, and visceral, and I am all about that. There is very much distinct styles. So when it comes to playstyle then in Rise for the Greatsword, at least with this set of Silkbinds, if indeed the rumours of us being able to choose different loadouts are true, is quite interesting. Playing them on normal true charge that we know in Iceborne is a little bit kind of awkward, because at least with Mizutsune, they're so fast, and I feel like that would be monsters in general to allow for our Wirebug mobility. Going for full true charges is very much seemingly going to be reserved for a down monster that can't stop you, or a monster with a really long recovery after committing to a really big attack. At least when it comes to, the majority of the player base. The speedrunners are already showing that the best way to play for pure damage kill time efficiency is essentially completely normally while keeping up the damage boost from your power sheath. Just keep sniping heads with your draw attacks, getting in little extra parts of the combo when you can, and basically completely ignoring that launching yourself into the air at any point is even a thing you can do. So on one hand, it's nice to know that traditional style does work, and once we have more experience with the game, that's what we can do, but on the other hand, it's kind of sad that the best way to play, at least damage-wise, is already proving to be ignore Wirebugs, which is kind of the whole thing of Rise. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But I think the addition of the landing super swipe into true charge really helps, and letting fly just a level 1/1 just to get it off is going to be good. But the playstyle of keep up your damage buff from your power sheath and then keep just hopping into the air and getting your level 3 charges off is really nice. You can essentially just keep spamming that kind of cycle of keep buff up, keep air attacking, keep buff up, keep air attacking fairly safely and doing fairly good damage, and then whenever the opportunity arrives when you land from that attack, to super swipe, to true charge. I think that's a very good core playstyle, and while it might not be the most speedrun efficient, that of course needs you to know the monster like the back of your hand, it is reliable, powerful, and fun, and I think that might be the new base, or at least something that I am enjoying, rather than our usual just tackle through attacks, go into true charge, and, the motions with Greatsword. But of course, experimentation still very much needed. Or you can mix it up, or depending on what skills we get, we can tailor to one or the other, and it's just exciting to see what the future of the big meaty sword is going to be. So for now, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, let me know what your thoughts are on this bestest of weapons, and I will see you soon. Please consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon below, as it really is what keeps us going as we pump through all of this Rise content for all of your eyeball delectation. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.